Ecstasy street names: Love Pill, Eve, Adam, Beans, California Sunrise, Elephants, Cadillac, Hug, Essence, Love Drug, E, Roll, Hug Drug, X, Ecstasy, Scooby Snacks, Lover Speed, Clarity, Snowball, XE, and Molly's. What is ecstasy? Ecstasy was originally developed by Merck Pharmaceutical Company in 1912. In its original form, it was known as MDMA. It was used in 1953 by the U.S. Army in a psychological warfare test and then resurfaced in the 1960s as a psychotherapy medication to lower inhibitions. It wasn't until the 1970s that MDMA started being used as a party drug. By the early 1980s, MDMA was being promoted as the hottest thing in the continuing search for happiness through chemistry, and the end drug for many weekend parties. Still legal in 1984, MDMA was being sold under the brand name Ecstasy. But by 1985, the drug had been banned due to safety concerns. Since the 1980s, ecstasy has become an abrasive marketing term for drug dealers selling ecstasy-type drugs that may in fact contain very little MDMA at all. And while MDMA itself can produce harmful effects, what is called ecstasy today can contain a wide mixture of substances from LSD to cocaine to heroin, amphetamines, meth.
Hey guys, what's up? So I got some really good E. It's a 2 for $20, the good stuff.
Excuse me, young man. What do you got there?
Nothing?
Let me see your hands.
Nothing. I think
Let me see your pockets. I can't reach in there due to...
there's nothing in here.
Let me see. Put them up.
Oh.
Just as I suspected. Hands behind your back. Palms together. This is just one of the repercussions of doing drugs.
Some short-term effects of ecstasy lead to euphoric state of being, disordered perception, elevated alertness, increase in energy and focus, suppression of eating, drinking, or sleeping, false sense of affection. Some side effects include nausea, muscle cramping, fever, sweats and chills, hallucination, blurred vision, high heart rates, tension in the mouth, face, and jaw, seizures, and swelling of the brain. It can also lead to overdose. Some long-term effects are damage of serotonin neurotransmitters that lead to depression. It can lead to an addiction which leads to dependency on the drug. It also leads to a decline in motivation and permanent damage to the brain.
Just as I suspected.
Because ecstasy is dangerously cheap, it targets our youth ranging from ages 12 to 17. Comparing to other countries, the United States has one of the cheapest ecstasy prices. A street price for a pill of ecstasy can range anywhere between $2 and $100. The widespread ecstasy use has persisted over recent years. According to a recent survey, the American Association of Poison Control Centers reported to 6,138 calls about ecstasy relating to bath salts in 2011, and that was up from 304 in the past year. About 1 to 2% of adolescents had taken ecstasy at least once in their life.
Just as I suspected.
Originally, ecstasy was developed and patented as an appetite suppressant. In the U.S., it was used as a possible aid to psychotherapy, but was used without the support of clinical trial research or FDA approval. Later on, in 1985, the Drug Enforcement Administration labeled MDMA a Schedule I substance or a drug with high abuse potential and no recognized medicinal use. Ecstasy, or MDMA, has similarities to both the stimulant amphetamine and the hallucinogen mescaline. Since MDMA is a man-made drug, manufacturers can add anything to the drug, such as caffeine, dextromethamphetamine, amphetamines, PCP, or cocaine. So its purity is always questionable.
Just as I
It's
suspected.
important to remember that doing drugs at all, regardless of whether it be ecstasy or any kind of drug, it's not to be taken lightly, and it's a very serious thing that has a lot of repercussions, not just legal issues, but to your health as well.
Sometimes the media, famous pop stars and rappers like to glamorize drugs, but in reality it's extremely detrimental to your health and will only have negative consequences.
Don't do drugs.